Hi, good evening. The specific purpose of my speech today is to inform my audience about the speech John Kerry gave to the Senate of Foreign Relations Committee on April 22nd, 1971. I first want to start off by saying that the Vietnam War was the one war that I can honestly say made me disgusted to be an American. John Kerry went and spoke before the Senate of Foreign Relations Committee about the veterans of the Vietnam War on April 22nd, 1971. The Senate asked John Kerry to speak on behalf of these veterans. However, the Senate never thought that they would have questioned some of their decisions and regulations until this day, all because of John Kerry. According to John Kerry and his firsthand accounts and experiences to what these men endured while they were over there in Vietnam, he went on to say that it was not the war that was the issue, but rather the lack of medical treatment and the support of the American people when these men returned home. He proceeded to state that the inability for these men to get the help they needed when they got back and the welcome that they so deserved. Kerry then stated that even if they got the help from the VA, almost always there was a wait and sometimes a problem that the men had, PTSD, was not a legit one. He proceeded to say, and I quote, 57%. I understand 57% of all those entering VA hospitals talk about suicide. Some 27% have tried, and they try because they come back to this country and they have to face what they did in Vietnam. And then they come back and find the indifference of a country that doesn't really care, In researching this famous speech, I found that the similarities of what was the treatment of our nation's veterans has not really changed with the times. The medical treatment was non-existent, as Kerry stated ever so well in his speech. He again stated, and I quote, "The hospitals across the country won't or can't meet their demands. It's not a question of not trying. They haven't got the apparations. A man recently died after he had a tracheotomy in California, not because of the operation, but because there weren't enough personnel to clean the mucus out of his tube and he suffocated to death. Another young man just died in a New York VA hospital the other day. A friend of mine was lying in 2 beds away and tried to help him, but he couldn't. They rang the bell, and there was no one there to service that man, and so he died of convulsions." When he talked about the unemployment rate, it didn't really shy from what the unemployment rate is now comprised of at the present. It just goes to show you that the way America sees their veterans, whether they are in the Vietnam War or the war in the Middle East in this day and age, our veterans are treated with the same disrespect. Today, I am here to speak to you about how the persuasiveness of John Kerry and his direct approach to the matter of the Vietnam War veterans affected the Senate and the audience. Let's start by talking about his body language. When Kerry talked to the members of the Senate, he sat in a slouched manner, with his hands placed together on the table. He did not move unless it was to lean into the mic to make a point. Secondly, when he spoke about the veterans, he always referred to them as us, we, and never as insignificant people. Like the audience that reacted, my reaction was the same. When I was watching and listening to the statements from John Kerry, I could instantly relate to what he was saying about the Vietnam vets and the way they were treated. However, the magnitude at which the Vietnam vets were treated, our veterans today are treated with little to no respect as well. The treatment that they receive from the VA is not as it should be, but rather subadequate. I can honestly say that from firsthand experience, many vets have to wait months or even years to get the treatment that they deserve. They put their lives on the line for you and me to be able to sit here. And yet all we do is see them as less. When it comes to the unemployment rates, well, it's the same as it was then now. Our vets go over and fight for our freedom, and then they come back home only to have nothing and cannot find a job, even though they have the skills for the job. They just don't have a little piece of paper saying that they have the right skills. In conclusion, as we have seen today, the treatment of our veterans in the past and now today, to the same extent, remains the same. I focused on just some of the topics, like the VA and the treatment of our vets, because they were the veterans that had the worst time when they got home from their tour of war. So the next time you see a veteran on the street or in your passing, please remember that if it was not for them, you would not be able to do what you are doing at this very moment. Make sure you thank them and take the time to listen. That's all they want sometimes, is just for someone to listen and to give a crap about them.